writers and photographers after me. But my first worry was getting on the staff, and that's what I worked at.
Take a look at this. This is, speaking of Life magazine, when you went to Paris in 1952. Roll tape.
In 1952, Life assigned Parks to its Paris bureau. It was considered a choice assignment.
I needed Europe, especially Paris. Life magazine sent me to Paris to live. I hadn't been on staff over a year. Usually you have to wait 5 or 6 or 7 years to get an assignment like Paris or London. Paris became my beautiful mistress, seducing me with the color and the compositions of Degas, Braque, Bonnard, Picasso, Van Gogh, Chagall, and other masterful artists. Gradually, they would influence all my work, especially in fashion. Sally Kirkland, who was a fashion editor at Life at the time, was one who encouraged me more or less to let my models move. And so I worked up a scheme of letting the model move, and I moved with her, shooting at a slow speed. Now, you're taking your chances because you had to get her in focus, keep her in focus, and move with her. And that's what I did. I ate at the Café du Magot on the left bank where Balzac or Baudelaire might have eaten. Walked along the River Seine, Place Vendôme, the Rue de la Paix, and Montmartre, high above the city in the shadows of Sacré-Cœur. Looking down on the classical age of Molière, seeing Notre Dame, where Napoleon was crowned emperor. Paris served those inner desires that had been hampered by racism back in America.
You have said to me before that I said, when I asked about, of all these talents, which two did you hold most dear? And you said poetry and creating music.
Mm-hmm. I suppose that if I had my druthers,
yeah,
and if Providence were to will me only to particular things, I would probably just write poetry and compose music.
Would you really?
I think that at this point.
As a photographer, what is it that you like to photograph most? Is it journalism? Is it art? Is it?
It's a very difficult question you pose, because the pictures that I made that I have become the most important pictures were pictures that I wished that I never had to take, with people who were impoverished, people in need. And I suppose that I pointed my camera at people mostly who needed someone to say something for them, who couldn't speak for themselves.
What's poppin', what's poppin'? First off, rest in peace to the great Gordon Parks. You know, that was the first documentary I ever watched when it came to photography. And that's really the reason I'm doing photography. By watching his documentary, that shit changed my life. You know, and I used to watch it over and over and over again. And I'm probably gonna watch that shit this weekend. That shit just so inspiring, man. The poetry, everything. He also does music. But, you know, I don't know where y'all listen to this video at. You know, you might be going to work. You might be working out. You might be just chilling. Shit, you might be stressing the life. But look, let me tell you, man. If you create anything, if you build anything, if you're thinking about creating, if you have a talent or a gift that you just been sitting on because you ashamed or you fear or you just too lazy, man, look, it's never too late. Start that shit. You know, when you die, you want people to be able to make videos like this about you, you know, in a good way, you know, bragging about your work, being inspired by your work. You know, you don't want You don't want to go to your grave and you didn't create the way you should create. Like I always say, you disrespecting yourself by bragging on other celebrities, other artists, and not yourself. You know, I talk about these photographers and artists from back in the day because they inspired me. And I think if you do art or anything, you should always do your research on the history. You know, do your research, because especially when you hit them times where you don't know what you want to do and you just stuck, go back and study the history. You're going to get ideas. Everything is inspired by what's already been done. Even if you don't know it, you know, it's still inspired by it. And like I always say, your art, your song, your rap song, your writing, your book, your drawing, something you building, your photography picture, man, that shit is important to the world, especially if it's a gift that you have. If you know you're good at something and you sitting on it, I'm telling you, it's gonna always eat away at you. And let me tell you this, the further you move away from what you're good at, the more depressed you're gonna feel. Let me say that again. The further you move away from your gift and what you are great at, you're gonna feel depressed. So let's say you take a job dumping trash cans. You know, you are dumping trash cans, and your gift, you know, you good at writing. You good at writing poetry. You good at writing books. You just good at writing. Like, it just comes to you naturally, you know. And instead of working on those trucks and coming home and writing, you just working on a truck and you coming home. You looking on your phone. You DMing girls. You seeing which girl you're gonna pay for this weekend. You seeing which girl you want to go on a date. You scrolling through the dating apps. You're gonna be depressed. And you know how I can tell you this? Because that was me. I was doing that. I went a while after I put out my book because I was mad nobody bought it. I went a while not doing photography. And the further I moved away from it, the more depressed I got. You know? So even if you got a job dumping trash cans, when you get off work, you should be writing. When you get off work, you should be singing, recording. When you get off work, you should be using that money to go buy your camera, taking pictures. You should be using that money to, if you building a house, you're an architect, you should be using that money to build your blueprint, you know, however that goes, you know. A lot of depression is caused because you're sitting on what you're good at. Let me tell you, when you do what you love, depression is hard. It's going to be hard for depression to come your way. I'm not saying you're going to always be happy, and you know, if you have, it's going to come times. But when you doing what you love, man, it's just hard to stay depressed. It's hard to stay stressed because you're doing what you love, you know. And for my guys who don't know what you love yet, just start doing anything. Start doing what you used to love as a teenager. Start doing what you used to love as a kid. You're gonna run into it. It's gonna come to you, and you're gonna be naturally good at it. For instance, when I first started photography, I went in the backyard, started practicing. For some reason, like, people was telling me, "Oh, you good," but I knew myself. Like, I just thought different when it came to photography. I look in the eyes because that's the soul, and I love the emotions. It's the emotions of people that catch me, not the posing, the forced posing. No, it's the natural. When a girl is looking out the window thinking, when a couple is kissing and having fun and laughing, when, like, for instance, when I'm in my penthouse and I look down and somebody's walking across the street at night, that just happened. They walking across the street at night. It's a green light, like just one person walking. To me, that's a picture. I see everything in pictures. And And you guys the same way. It's something. Some of you probably hear music all the time. Some of you probably see drawings all the time. Some of you probably look at architect and see architect all the time. You know, anything, you know, when it comes to your art, you want to dive into that shit. You want to dive into that shit, man. Because if you don't, you're going to always be depressed. You're going to be working for others and you're going to be depressed because you're just working and you just building their life. So I don't care what job you're going to right now. If you just got off, if you stressed out right now, start doing something. Go buy a camera. Go buy some paint and a paint board. If you love music, go buy a guitar. Go buy a microphone. Go to a studio. Find a friend with a studio. Just do something and start creating. Put out your own album. Put out your own book. Build your own house. Just do something for yourself, you know, because this shit real, man. Art can really save your life. Your art can save your life and it can save others' lives. You just never know. So let's go. Let's get this shit, man.